Hello, we're excited to be back, still tackling the ideas introduced yesterday in Lesson 136 and moving into 137.
That's right. And we'll take maybe 8-10 minutes, though. Let's be honest, we never quite hit that estimate, do we?
No, we don't, but we'll try. We're going to read through Lesson 137 first, just the text itself.
Okay, sounds good. Lesson 137.
As I am healed, I am not healed alone.
Today's idea remains the central thought on which salvation rests.
For healing is the opposite of all the world's ideas which dwell on sickness and on separate states.
Sickness is a retreat from others and a shutting off of joining.
It becomes a door that closes on a separate self and keeps it isolated and alone.
Sickness is isolation, for it seems to keep oneself apart from all the rest, to suffer what the others do not feel.
It gives the body final power to make separation real and keep the mind in solitary prison, split apart and held in pieces by a solid wall of sickened flesh, which it cannot surmount.
The world obeys the laws that sickness serves, but healing operates apart from them.
3. It is impossible that anyone be healed alone.
In sickness must he be apart and separate.
But healing is his own decision to be one again, and to accept his self with all its parts intact and unassailed.
In sickness does his self appear to be dismembered and without the unity which gives it life.
But healing is accomplished as he sees the body has no power to attack the universal oneness of God's Son.
Sickness would prove that lies must be the truth, but healing demonstrates that truth is true.
The separation sickness would impose has never really happened.
To be healed is merely to accept what always was the simple truth, and always will remain exactly as it has forever been.
Yet eyes accustomed to illusions must be shown that what they look upon is false.
So healing, never needed by the truth, must demonstrate that sickness is not real.
5. Healing might thus be called a counter-dream, which cancels out the dream of sickness in the name of truth, but not in truth itself.
Just as forgiveness overlooks all sins that never were accomplished, healing but removes illusions that have not occurred.
Just as the real world will arise to take the place of what has never been at all. Healing but offers restitution for imagined states and false ideas which dreams embroider into pictures of the truth.
6. Yet think not healing is unworthy of your function here.
For Antichrist becomes more powerful than Christ to those who dream the world is real.
The body seems to be more stable and more solid than the mind.
And love becomes a dream, while fear remains the one reality which can be seen and justified and fully understood.
Gavin, just as forgiveness shines away all sin and the real world must occupy the place of what you made, so healing must replace the fantasies of sickness you have held before the symbol truth.
When sickness has been seen to disappear in spite of all the laws which hold it cannot but be real, then questions have been answered, and the laws can be no longer cherished nor obeyed.
Healing is freedom.
For it demonstrates that dreams will not prevail against the truth.
Healing is shared.
And by this attribute, it proves that laws, unlike the ones which hold that sickness is inevitable, are more potent than their sickly opposites.
Healing is strength.
For by its gentle hand is weakness overcome, and minds which were walled off within a body, free to join with other minds, to be forever strong.
9. Healing, forgiveness, and the glad exchange of all the world of sorrow for a world where sadness cannot enter are the means by which the Holy Spirit urges you to follow him.
His gentle lessons teach how easily salvation can be yours, how little practice you need undertake to let his laws replace the ones you made to hold yourself a prisoner to death.
His life becomes your own as you extend the little help. He asks in freeing you of everything that ever caused you pain.
And as you let yourself be healed, you see all those around you, or who cross your mind, or whom you touch, or those who seem to have no contact with you, healed along with you.
Perhaps you will not recognize them all, nor realize how great you're offering to all the world when you let healing come to you.
But you are never healed alone.
And legions upon legions will receive the gifts that you receive when you are healed.
Those who are healed become the instruments of healing.
Nor does time elapse between the instant they are healed and all the grace of healing it has given them to give.
What is opposed to God does not exist, and who accepts it not within his mind becomes a haven where the weary can remain to rest.
For here is truth bestowed, and here are all illusions brought to truth.
12. Would you not offer shelter to God's will?
You but invite yourself to be at home, and can this invitation be refused?
Ask the inevitable to occur, and you will never fail.
The other choice is but to ask what cannot be to be, and this cannot succeed.
Today we ask that only truth will occupy our minds, that thoughts of healing will this day go forth from what is healed to what must yet be healed, aware that they will both occur as one.
13. We will remember, as the hour strikes, our function is to let our minds be healed, that we may carry healing to the world, exchanging curse for blessing, pain for joy, and separation for the peace of God.
Is not a minute of the hour worth the giving to receive a gift like this?
Is not a little time a small expense to offer for the gift of everything?
14. Yet must we be prepared for such gift.
And so we will begin the day with this and give 10 minutes to these thoughts with which we will conclude today at night as well.
As I am healed, I am not healed alone.
And I would share my healing with the world, that sickness may be banished from the mind of God's one Son, who is my only self.
15. Let healing be through you this very day.
And as you rest in quiet, be prepared to give as you receive, to hold but what you give, and to receive the word of God to take the place of all the foolish thoughts that ever were imagined.
Now we come together to make, well, all that was sick, and offer blessing where there was attack.
Nor will we let this function be forgot as every hour of the day slips by, remembering our function with this thought.
As I am healed, I am not healed alone.
And I would bless my brothers, for I would be healed with them as they are healed with me.
Okay, so that was lesson 137 of the course.
Phew! Powerful stuff.
It really is.
Right, 136 presents that idea of sickness as a defense against the truth, which can be a bit confronting.
It definitely can be. And then 137 follows with this really hopeful message, when I'm healed, I am not healed alone. That healing resonates outwards.
You know, I remember when I first came across lesson 136, it really made me pause. It almost felt like it was pointing a finger, suggesting some kind of personal failing if you were ill.
That's a very common initial reaction. It can feel like blame.
But then reading lesson 137, that message of shared healing, it resonated so much more deeply. It offered a completely different frame.
It does, and it acknowledges that we all navigate very real things, physical conditions, emotional struggles, trauma. These are genuine experiences.
So true. Which brings us to the core question for today, I think. How can we approach this whole idea of healing in a way that actually empowers us? You know, moving away from any sense of fault or blame, the goal really is freedom, isn't it?
That's the heart of it. Finding liberation, not assigning blame. And as we dig into these lessons, some key understandings start to emerge.
One of the first things that jumps out, for me at least, is how the Course separates the physical thing, the illness, the symptom, from how our mind interprets it. It's not denying the symptom exists.
Not at all. It's asking us to look at the meaning we've wrapped around it. What story are we telling ourselves about these symptoms? The event and our interpretation. They're distinct.
And then there's that recurring theme, isn't there? How the past tends to color the present. Our mind kind of defaults to old patterns.
Oh, definitely. It's like we react based on old conditioning. And doing that just seems to validate those old patterns, keeping them alive.
So a major takeaway here is that the past only really has power if we let it define how we see things now.
Right. And the flip side is every single moment offers a fresh chance. A new opportunity for a different interpretation, no matter what's happened before.
Which leads beautifully into lesson 137, this idea that healing isn't just a solo mission. When one person finds healing, it actually affects others positively. It ripples out.
It's such a comforting and connective idea, shifting from just my struggle to a shared experience of recovery and well-being. Our healing journey has wider significance.
Yeah. And finally, it seems our real freedom, our agency, isn't so much in controlling every single external event because, let's face it, we often can't, but in how we choose to understand and respond.
That's where the power lies. And that concept, the Course calls the holy instant, seems key here. It's about finding that freedom in the present moment by choosing our interpretation.
Okay, so let's explore that progression. Lesson 136 says sickness is a defense, suggesting it stems from the mind choosing separation. But then 137 comes along and offers this sense of hope, this path back through reconnection. It feels like 136 identifies the issue and 137 provides the way forward.
That's a really helpful way to see it. Lesson 136 highlights the mindset of separation, and 137 gently guides us back towards wholeness, saying healing happens through connection. It's like believing in separation dims our light.
And embracing connection, realizing we're not alone in our healing, that brightens it again.
Kind of like finding your lost glasses. Lesson 136 is like realizing your vision's blurry, something's wrong. Lesson 137 is finding the glasses. Clarity. And maybe seeing you find yours help someone else remember where they put theirs.
I like that. It moves it away from what did I do wrong to how can we all see more clearly? It becomes a shared journey.
And this brings us back to that crucial distinction the Course makes. The difference between what is like a physical condition, a chronic pain, an event, and the meaning we attach to it.
That is so fundamental. You could have two people with very similar physical pain, right? But their experience can be vastly different based on their interpretation.
Absolutely. One person might interpret it as punishment, maybe linking it back to something they feel guilty about. Another, facing the same physical reality, might see it as a signal, perhaps to slow down or look inward or ask for help.
The raw sensation is there, but the story around it creates the suffering or the opportunity for something else. Growth, maybe.
Exactly. The pain itself, the event itself, is essentially neutral in course terms. It's the narrative, the why me, the this always happens, the meaning we layer onto it that dictates whether it becomes unbearable suffering or something else.
So how does the mind, or the ego, as the Course often calls it, keep us locked into those old, often painful interpretations? It seems pretty persistent.
It is. The Course portrays the ego as being obsessed with time, particularly the past. It constantly drags past experiences into the present to interpret what's happening now. It wants predictability, even if it's predictably painful. When something new happens, the ego's first move is often to say, "Oh, I know this. This is just like that other time." It forces new experiences into old boxes.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Think about someone who's struggled with, say, emotional eating for years. When they face a choice about food today, the ego immediately brings up the entire history. You always fail at this. You have no willpower. This is just who you are. It interprets the present decision entirely through that past lens.
Reinforcing the belief that change isn't really possible?
Precisely. It uses the past to define the present, creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. But the Course offers this incredible counter-perspective. The past actually has no inherent power over this present moment.
Unless we give it that power, unless we choose to see the present through the filter of the past.
That's the key. The present moment is always a fresh start, an opportunity for a completely different choice, a new interpretation, if we're willing to step outside that ego narrative for just a second.
Okay, so this brings up causation. The Course talks about it on different levels, which can sometimes feel a bit abstract.
It can. On a deep metaphysical level, it suggests the entire physical world we perceive is, in essence, a projection of a mind that believes it's separate from its source. But that's quite foundational.
Right, perhaps less immediately practical for everyday challenges.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So on the more practical, experiential level, the focus is consistently on that distinction we've been discussing: external events versus our internal interpretation or meaning-making.
And this is really important when we talk about illness. When the Course says something like, "we created illness," it's usually pointing towards the meaning, the story we've attached to the symptoms.
Rather than suggesting we consciously, intentionally manifested a specific physical condition or brought about a traumatic event through sheer will, that would often just lead back to blame and guilt.
Which is the opposite of the goal.
Right. The emphasis is on where our true power lies. We might not always control the external event, the diagnosis, the accident, someone else's behavior, but we always retain the power to choose how we interpret it and respond to it.
So our freedom is located in that space of interpretation. That's where we have agency.
That's where our freedom resides, in our ability to choose meaning, to choose perception.
Okay, so if we want to actually apply this, how do we start loosening the grip of those old, automatic interpretations? The Course does offer practical steps, doesn't it?
It does. A foundational practice is simply developing a kind of non-judgmental awareness of your own thoughts.
Just noticing the interpretations as they arise without immediately buying into them or beating yourself up for having them.
Becoming a neutral observer of your inner world. And alongside that, learning to discern between the different voices inside. The ego's voice, usually fear-based, past-focused, limited.
Versus what the Course calls the voice of the Holy Spirit, which speaks from love, from present possibility, from a sense of connection and wholeness. Recognizing the difference is key.
It's a crucial skill. And then there's the concept of the holy instant, this powerful idea that we can actually step outside the normal flow of time and our ingrained associations for a moment.
A moment of pure presence.
Essentially, yes. A moment where we consciously pause, release the grip of the past, and open ourselves to a different kind of guidance, a more loving perspective.
How does that work in practice? Can we make it really tangible?
Let's try. Okay, imagine a situation arises that typically triggers you. Maybe physical pain flares up, or you feel that old pull towards an addictive pattern, or a difficult memory surfaces.
Okay, got it. Step one.
Step one, pause. Just create a tiny gap between the stimulus and your usual automatic reaction. Even half a second makes a difference. Interrupt the momentum.
Okay, pause.
Step two, Acknowledge the thoughts that immediately rush in, especially those tied to the past. Here we go again. This always happens. I can't handle this. Just notice them.
Don't fight them, just see them.
Exactly. Step 3, recognize these thoughts for what they are. Present interpretations heavily influenced by past data. They aren't necessarily the fixed, unchangeable truth of this moment. See them as interpretations, not facts.
Okay. Acknowledge their thoughts, interpretations based on the past.
Step 4, actively ask for a different perspective. Ask for guidance beyond these familiar, limiting patterns. You could ask, how would love see the situation? Or, is there another way to look at this? Or simply, help me see this differently.
Asking for help from that wiser part of ourselves, or from spirit, or however you frame it.
And step 5, from that slightly more spacious awareness, then make a choice. Respond rather than react. Even if the choice looks similar on the outside, it comes from a different internal place.
And this whole process can happen really quickly.
It can take literally seconds. It's not about prolonged meditation necessarily. It's about creating that brief conscious interruption in the ego's habitual loop.
Yeah.
That's the holy instant it disrupts the narrative.
Could you give another couple of quick everyday examples?
Sure. Physical pain. Instead of the instant thought this pain is going to ruin everything, pause. Acknowledge the thought. Recognize it's an interpretation. Ask, okay, pain is here. How would love have me respond right now? Maybe the answer is rest. Maybe it's gentle movement. Maybe it's asking for help. It shifts from victimhood to response.
Makes sense. What about something like, say, emotional eating?
Same process. The urge arises. The thought comes, I always do this when I'm stressed. Pause. Acknowledge. That's a thought based on past patterns. Recognize. This moment is actually new. Ask, what would truly nourish me right now beyond this pattern? Maybe the answer is still food, but chosen consciously. Or maybe it's a walk, a call to a friend, deep breaths. It breaks the automatic link.
It creates that space for a different outcome. Okay, so this sounds doable, but what are the common roadblocks? Where do people tend to get stuck with this?
Well, one big challenge, especially with intense physical or emotional pain, is making that distinction between the raw experience and the interpretation. When you're overwhelmed, it can all feel like one inseparable mass of awfulness.
Yeah, the story feels just as real as the sensation.
Exactly. Another hurdle is simply resistance. We can become quite attached to our narratives, even the painful ones. They form part of our identity, who we think we are. Letting go of, I'm the person who always struggles with X, can feel surprisingly threatening.
There's a weird kind of comfort in the known, even if the known is painful.
There really is. And let's not forget social reinforcement. People around us, often with the best intentions, might reinforce our ego's interpretations. Oh, you always have bad luck with that, or of course you feel that way given your past.
So navigating those external voices while doing the internal work is also part of it.
It definitely is. It highlights why the inner practice, that moment-to-moment choosing, is so important.
Okay, so wrapping things up for today. If we were to summarize the core message from the Course about healing, drawing from 136 and 137.
It seems healing is primarily about a shift in perception, a change in how we interpret ourselves and the world. This shift may lead to physical changes, but that's not the primary goal or measure.
And the ego keeps suffering going by constantly replaying the past. Freedom comes when we recognize that our present interpretations are actually choices. We're not just victims of our thoughts.
And Lesson 137 offers that profound comfort. Healing is never just personal, it's always shared. When you heal your perception, it benefits everyone.
And the holy instant isn't some mystical, hard-to-reach state. It's a practical tool available right now to access that freedom of interpretation in any situation.
Right. It's not about blaming yourself for circumstances, but about recognizing your power to choose peace despite the circumstances. That's real empowerment.
So, maybe an invitation for you listening this week. Pick one area, just one situation or pattern where you feel a bit stuck, and try practicing that 5-step holy instant process.
Pause. Acknowledge the thoughts. Recognize their interpretations. Ask for a different view. Then choose your response from that space. See what shifts, even subtly.
And hold on to that beautiful reminder from Lesson 137. When I am healed, I am not healed alone. Your willingness to shift your perception, your journey toward healing, has ripples you might never even see, but they're there. It contributes to the whole.
Ooh, this was quite a topic. We hope you get a lot out of it. If you have comments or questions or something you'd like us to discuss, you can email us at acim@theworldharmonyproject.org.
We'll be back with Lesson 138 tomorrow.